When my husband, for the 9th time in front of me, cursed me as an idiot in French to his white moonlight, I suddenly felt that this marriage had lost its meaning. So I accepted the invitation from the foreign company and booked a flight to Paris. The day after I got my visa, I slipped the divorce agreement into my resignation paperwork and handed it to him. As the president, he was about to take a closer look when his white moonlight said she had a stomachache. He casually signed his name and left with the person in his arms, and I didn't look back. Later, across the ocean, under the Eiffel Tower in Paris, a young man from Asia cried until his eyes were red, but he could no longer find his former lover. Evelyn, our group welcomes your joining. Anna on the other side of the ocean laughed out loud with joy after receiving my exact reply. I don't know when you plan to start working? After thinking for a moment, I replied, I will go within 2 weeks. After I hung up the phone, Devin was standing behind me without me noticing. He frowned and asked, "Where are you going?" I glanced at him lightly and replied, "Abroad." Devin let out a cold laugh. Am I really that important to you? It's just that yesterday was our 5th wedding anniversary, and I brought Daisy over. Is that enough to scare me with your threats? I didn't explain much. He doesn't know that I could understand the French conversation he had with Daisy at the French restaurant. He freely complained to other women about his dissatisfaction with me over the past 5 years, calling me an utterly foolish idiot. You don't know that, apart from work, doing laundry, and cooking, we have no common topics to talk about at all. I talk to her about romance and beauty, but she brings up company profits with you, lacking any sense of charm. Finding her is no different from hiring a nanny. I really regret marrying her in the first place. Daisy smiled and chimed in, jokingly asking, Devin, if I hadn't got abroad back then, would you have chosen me? What did Devin say? He said sincerely and firmly, I will definitely do it. If it were before, I would definitely have made a scene, but this time I was surprisingly calm. After eating the last piece of steak under the waiter's sympathetic gaze, I got up to leave. You all have a good time chatting, I'm heading home first. Daisy pretended to get up and stop me. Evelyn, Devin, and I are just discussing some work matters, don't overthink it. I ignored her and continued to walk outside. But I heard Devin's frantic voice, don't mind her, she's just a lunatic. The only one who finally caught up with me was the waitress from the restaurant. She looked at me, hesitating to speak. Ma'am, I think there are some things I should tell you. I smiled at her and said, thank you, I understand everything. I vaguely remember the look in the kind-hearted waiter's eyes as he looked at me, a mix of pity and sorrow. It is quite sad, this marriage. It's time to end it. After Devin lectured me for a while and realized I didn't have much of a reaction, he lost his enthusiasm and started talking about something else. Daisy is preparing to come to our company, and I plan to have her take your position. After all, they say that a top student who has studied abroad is more capable than you. In the future, if you still want to work, then be Daisy's secretary and assist her. If you don't want to, then go home and be a good full-time housewife. As he spoke, he observed my expression, and I secretly rejoiced, having originally planned to resign. I was still thinking about how to explain my resignation, and then someone handed me a pillow, just as I was feeling drowsy. I didn't think twice and agreed, sure, I'll resign and let her be the general manager. Devin thought I was angry and was speaking sarcastically, so he casually comforted me with a few words, not letting you work is also for your own good, how many women envy what you have? Another day, I'll take you out to travel and relax. I shook my head in refusal. If you really care, come with me to the orphanage this week to see the director. Devin replied, sure, I haven't visited the dean in a long time. Devin and I grew up in the same orphanage. Girls develop faster than boys when they are young, so every time someone bullied him, I would stand in front of him. At that time, Devin kept blinking his bright big eyes at me and said, when I grow up, I'll protect you, Mian Mian, and I will be good to you for a lifetime. It's a pity, a lifetime is too long. Casual promises are too light, and Devon did not fulfill them. That year in college, he changed his heart. The city's splendor dazzled his eyes, and he fell in love with the flamboyant and bright Daisy, the belle of the French department. At the moment Devon chose to take French as her elective, I should have understood. However, the eye-catching presence of Daisy did not attract Devon at that time. Instead, she went abroad with a rich second-generation heir. Until now, Devon has achieved great success and fame. My once red rose has completely turned into mosquito blood, highlighting Daisy's increasingly noble beauty. The next day, I went to the company to pack my things. Along the way, the employees looked at me with various expressions. A close old employee of mine came up and whispered to me, "Evelyn, Devon took that woman to your office early this morning, and as soon as they arrived, they had your things moved out. What's going on?" I nodded to show that I understood and patted her hand to reassure her. As soon as I entered the office, I saw that everything that originally belonged to me had been cleared out. My wedding photo with Devon was still thrown in the trash can. Daisy looked at me proudly. "Sorry, Evelyn, Devon insisted that I move in quickly, and he had someone come over early in the morning to help me pack." She lowered her head, looking at the photo in the trash can, and feigned surprise as she said, "Oh, who was so careless as to throw Devon and your wedding photo into the trash?" After she finished speaking, she bent down to pick up the photo and handed it to me. After I took it, I removed the photo from the frame and tore it to shreds. "There's no need to pick up something that's dirty." Behind her, Devon exclaimed, "Evelyn, what are you doing? How could you bear to tear up this photo?" He stepped forward to pick up the torn pieces, trying to piece them back together, but no matter how carefully he stitched the broken things, they could never return to their original form, just like the relationship between Devon and me. Once upon a time, I also cherished this photo very much. When we had just gotten married, Devon had just started his business, we were poor, and after buying the wedding rings, we had no extra money. I said to him, "We don't have to take wedding photos, we can make up for it later." Devon said, "I just want you to marry me without feeling too wronged." In order to take that set of portrait photos, he worked 10 nights and did odd jobs for 10 days to save up for it. Now that I think about it, that set of photos wasn't actually expensive, just over $1,000. It can't even buy Devon a single tie now. It was precisely this set of photos that made me, knowing he had once had a brief change of heart, still marry him without hesitation. But the fact is, once there is a crack, it is best to let go early. I ignored Devon's hysteria and casually took out a document. "This is my resignation paperwork, just sign it." Devon saw that I had been indifferent and cold since the night before last, and a rare look of panic flashed across his face. He glanced at the paperwork after taking it and said, "If you don't want to resign, we can discuss it. I can arrange another position for Daisy." Daisy, who was beside him, panicked, not wanting the duck that was on the tip of her tongue to fly away. She tugged at Devon's sleeve and called out sweetly, "Devon." Devon rarely ignored Daisy, but instead looked at me, waiting for my response. I smiled slightly, still calm and indifferent. "No need, after so many years, I've had enough of this job." Devon gritted his teeth in silence, a surge of determination rising within him. He slammed his hand on the table. "All right, you said it, don't regret it." He opened the agreement and was about to read it carefully when Daisy, fearing further complications, clutched her stomach and shouted, "Devon, my stomach hurts, hurry up and sign so we can go to the hospital." Hearing this, Devon quickly wrote down the name and ran outside holding Daisy. I looked at the resignation papers on the table, and my anxious heart was completely set at ease. Devon will not know that what is hidden inside is the divorce agreement. From the moment he signs his name, I will be a stranger to him. I picked up the agreement, left the company, and returned home, counting out my belongings one by one, taking what I could and throwing away everything I couldn't. I am deleting the bits and pieces of my time with him in this villa. When he was 13, Devon broke 1,000 stars over the course of half a month. When he was 18, he wrote me a love letter. And the gold ring he bought with all his money when he proposed to me. These were once treasures I cherished, but without love, they now seem so cheap. When Devon returned, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening. He pushed the door open, weary from travel, and frowned at the home that was clearly missing many things. I turned around and saw the large and small bags of luggage I had organized, and casually asked, "What are you doing?" I hastily found a reason to brush it off. "There are too many odds and ends at home, so I'm tidying up." He opened the wardrobe with half belief and, seeing only his clothes, asked in confusion, "Where are your clothes?" I smiled and said, "Didn't you want me to be a full-time housewife? My clothes are all old, and I plan to throw them away and buy new ones." Devon snorted coldly, "You're willing to spend my money, but go ahead and buy it. By the way, I've cleared my schedule for tomorrow to accompany you back to the orphanage." I agreed, "Sure." After growing up together from childhood to adulthood, in the end, I still want to say goodbye to him with dignity. Early Saturday morning, I put on my beautiful clothes and made an effort to dress up for a change. Over the years, I have been busy with the company's business while also taking care of Devon's daily life. I don't have a moment to take care of myself, and I carefully look at the person in the mirror. Compared to the image in my memory, I have indeed aged a lot. No wonder Devon calls me an ugly old hag. Devon was wearing a well-fitted suit, and after a simple breakfast, we headed out. On the way, he and I calmly talked about a lot of things. We talked about our childhood in the orphanage and the hardships of those years of starting a business. Just as the car was halfway there, a phone call broke the silence. I caught a glimpse of the word Daisy on the phone screen out of the corner of my eye. The call had just ended when Devon stopped the car, looking at me with a troubled expression. "Evelyn, something urgent has come up at the company, I need to take care of it." I didn't break through the last layer of paper, opened the car door, and sincerely said to him through the window, "Goodbye, Devon, never to be seen again." I took a taxi and went to see the dean's mother alone. She was older, her hair gray, and she kept holding my hand asking, "Why hasn't Devon come?" I couldn't bear to tell her the truth, so I had to make up a lie. "He's busy with work and can't get away." The dean sighed upon hearing this. "I always feel that this child Devon has changed. No matter how busy he was before, he would always make time to be with you. What has happened now?" I smiled and did not answer. After spending the morning at the orphanage, I returned to the villa. After leaving the signed divorce agreement at the villa, I dragged my luggage out the door. At the last moment before getting on the plane, I said goodbye to Devon in French. He added a final remark very spitefully, "You are the idiot." Then I blocked all his contact methods and got a new SIM card. After that, I never saw him again. After arriving in Paris, the company sent a tall French handsome guy who was 188 centimeters tall to pick me up. His eyes are deep blue, like the endless sea. Clear and bright. He gentlemanly took my luggage and said to me in not very fluent Chinese, "Hello, Evelyn, I am sent by the headquarters to pick you up, you can call me Alan." I smiled and shook hands with him, telling him in French, "You can speak to me in French, I will." After a flash of surprise in his eyes, he smiled and praised me, "Your French is really great." I smiled back, "You're too kind." I was determined to learn French because Devon repeatedly communicated with Daisy in French right in front of me. When I asked them what they were talking about, they brushed me off, saying it was work-related. But what kind of job can make someone so happy, with a beaming face and sparkling eyes? During that time, no matter how busy I was, I would set aside an hour each day to study French. Even my leisure activities were replaced with watching French films. I hope that when he is chatting with Daisy, I can also communicate with him. After I learned, the first sentence I heard Devon say in French was, "Evelyn is an idiot, I will divorce her sooner or later." It was also at that moment that I completely saw through his true colors. Unlike the sadness I had expected, I was surprisingly calm. Perhaps deep down, I already had the answer. So even if they mocked and ridiculed me in French over and over again in front of me, I did not show any sign of it. I no longer spend my thoughts on Devon, but instead, I am gradually taking control of the company's clients, one by one. The reason I joined this French company is precisely the resources I possess and my years of experience in the new energy sector. Devon always mocks me for being an idiot, but the real idiot is him. He doesn't even realize the company has been hollowed out. I imagine that at this moment, Devon, who has discovered a significant loss of customers, must be no different from an ant on a hot pan. It is quite a coincidence that the first company I connected with after coming to France is Devon's company. Due to the loss of a large number of clients and the lack of customers, he had no choice but to start seeking foreign markets. The French company I work for is a mountain he cannot overcome. At the same time, Devon faced a bigger problem. After I left, those old employees who had accompanied Devon and me since the early days of our startup all submitted their resignation letters upon learning about my situation with him. I occasionally log into my old WeChat. Many former colleagues send me messages to comfort me, congratulating me on my divorce. Congratulations, my life has embarked on a new journey, and I expressed my hope to work together again in the future. I expressed my gratitude one by one. But more than that, it was the messages from Devon. Ever since he found out I had left, he would send them every day. From the initial questioning of why I spoke French but didn't tell him, to later repeatedly apologizing to me. He recounted the things we had experienced together along the way. From relying on each other in the orphanage during our childhood to him repeatedly tutoring me with my homework when we were in school. Later, when we graduated and started our own businesses, during the toughest times, we never thought of giving up on each other even when we shared a bowl of instant noodles. How could we just part ways? I scoffed coldly in my heart. He did something wrong, yet he turned around and asked me. I ignored him, his words only made me more awake. I understood that my choice was the right one. I devoted myself wholeheartedly to my work. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. In the past 3 years, I have gradually risen from a manager at the headquarters in France to the chairman of the China region. The effort I put in is known only to myself. In the 3 years, I haven't dated again. It's not because I haven't forgotten Devon. On the contrary, there are quite a few men around me. Among them is the handsome blue-eyed French guy who picked me up from the airport when I first arrived in France. He once confessed to me, and I clearly told him, sex is fine, but being lovers is not. The next moment, he wrapped his arms around my waist and kissed me. I have to say, his skills were impressive. So much so that I never replaced him, even when I returned to China, I brought him along as well. In these 3 years, I have gradually made myself stronger. I also increasingly understand that a woman can rely most on herself. When you shine in a certain field, both men and wealth will come to you on their own. What I didn't expect was that the first person I would see after returning home would be Devon. He didn't know where he got the news of my return to the country. After I landed, he was stuck at the arrival gate. When he saw me, he waved his hand at me with all his might. "Evelyn, over here." I followed his shout with my gaze, and compared to Devon 3 years ago, he now looked much older. The tear troughs are deep, and there are wrinkles on my face. From a distance, one can even see the white hair on my head. Compared to Devon's excitement, I appear very calm. I didn't deliberately avoid him, I wasn't the one who did something wrong in the first place, and I have nothing to hide. I walked up to him and asked, "Is there something wrong?" Faced with my indifference, Devon was momentarily at a loss. He looked at me almost pleadingly. "Evelyn, over these past 3 years, I've thought a lot. I really know I was wrong. Can you forgive me?" I nodded. "I accept the apology, so is there anything else?" can you go back with me? He stepped forward, trying to grab my hand, but I dodged. I solemnly warned him, Devon, we are divorced, please have some self-respect. He shook his head with red eyes, but I didn't agree. That divorce agreement was also something you tricked me into signing. I sneered coldly, but what does that matter? The fact is, we are already divorced, and you can't change anything. If there's nothing else, please step aside and don't make me report you for harassment. Devon's expression showed some vulnerability. He opened his mouth but ultimately didn't say anything. I dragged my luggage past Devon, and the little French wolf dog behind me asked in French, Sister, who is he? I replied with a smile, an idiot. I admit that, in some ways, I am indeed quite petty. In the past few years, I have actually heard news about Devon from our mutual friends from time to time. After I left, he went a bit crazy for a while. He searched everywhere for traces of me, drinking himself into a stupor all night long. He pretended as if he was deeply in love. Later, upon hearing that I had gone to Paris, he bought a plane ticket and flew over. He stayed in Paris for a month, hoping to run into me. In that month, Daisy knew she couldn't keep Devon's heart and began to cook the books, transferring assets from Devon's account. In just a month, 80 million had been moved. When Devon learned the news and returned, Daisy had already obtained a green card in the United States and immigrated abroad, and has not been caught since. Devon's company also faced bankruptcy liquidation and publicly declared bankruptcy. So I clearly know that his apology is not because he knows he was wrong, but because he knows that I am the best option among all his current choices. After settling everything, I returned to the orphanage to visit the director. Compared to 3 years ago, she sat in front of the door, bending over to bask in the sun, looking more fatigued, with more wrinkles on her face. Time leaves its marks on everyone. She was delighted to see me and came over. I quickly stepped forward to support her. Her first sentence when she saw me was, Evelyn, how have you been these past few years? A person going to a foreign land for so long must endure so much suffering and hardship. I smiled and shook my head, saying, It's not, you see, my career is doing well now. The dean just patted my head like when I was a child, silly child, how could you not suffer after working hard alone in a foreign land for so many years? I know about your situation with Devon, and he was wrong to do this. I didn't answer. I was afraid the dean would persuade me to get back together with him. I never expected that after she pulled me down to sit, she would say, It's better to be apart. He came to find me yesterday and asked me to persuade you. I drove him away. If he doesn't know how to cherish, he should bear the corresponding consequences. My eyes were a bit moist. I thought you were going to persuade me to try again with him. The old dean sighed. For us women, living in this world is already difficult enough. If our partners are unsatisfactory, it would be a waste of our entire lives. When we were kids, those troublemakers bullied Devon, and you protected her time and again. There were so many people, and you were scared too, but you still stood up for him. That year of graduation, you started a business. You came from a prestigious school and wanted to find a wealthy family to live a good life, such an easy thing, yet you were willing to accompany him, gnawing on cold steamed buns and drinking cold water, to gradually achieve today. If he could just think about the path he has taken, he wouldn't have done so many things to hurt you. If I plead for him, it would be a betrayal of your true feelings. She pulled me into her arms and hugged me like she did when I was a child. Time really flies. The little tree that Devon and I planted on Arbor Day in the orphanage when we were children is now tall and flourishing. He and I are also strangers in a changed world. After spending an afternoon with the director at the orphanage, I went back. I never expected to trend in the evening. I don't know who revealed that I was involved with 8 men at the same time. The trending search term reads, The 8 boyfriends of the chairman of Hengtai New Energy's China region, explosive, the 8 wolfdog boyfriends of a female CEO, the chat records between the female CEO and the little wolf dog have been exposed. In the comments section, there are also chat records between me and one of the men, as well as a photo of a French wolf cub hugging me in the hotel. I casually flipped through the comments section. Wow, is it really that explosive? 8. Sister, your life is my dream. That French little wolf dog is so handsome, those big blue eyes are simply going to crash into my heart. Isn't it true that you people have no sense of shame? Jumping between 8 boats is simply ruining the social atmosphere. If this happened to a boy, wouldn't you all scold him to death? I hadn't finished reading the comments when a strange call came in. After I connected, Devon's voice came through the phone. Evelyn, are you okay now? I instantly understood what this trending topic was about. I didn't hold back and directly asked him, did you leak this? Devon on the other end of the phone fell silent, which was a roundabout way of admitting it. I let out a cold laugh. You really are something. On the other end of the phone, Devon quickly began to explain. Evelyn, listen to me. As long as you agree to remarry me, I will have the paparazzi deleted immediately and will come forward to clarify. It won't affect your work. My expectations of Devon have been refreshed once again. I scoffed. What's the big deal? It's the 21st century, people's acceptance online is very high. Being liked by 8 men only proves that I have charm, it's just a matter of mutual willingness. Moreover, I have reached today step by step, relying on my abilities and resources. Do you think a trivial piece of gossip can threaten me? Dream on. I hung up the phone casually and called the French little wolf dog. Alan, those chat records and photos were provided by you, right? It's not me, sis. I didn't. Alan on the other end of the phone instinctively wanted to refute. There's no need to rush to deny it, I just want to know, what are you after? Alan on the other end of the phone was silent for a while, and I patiently waited for his response. After a long time, he spoke. I think my relationship with my sister can go a step further. I asked him back, so you gave your photos and those chat records to Devon, wanting to use his hand to leverage public opinion to solidify your boyfriend's status? I originally thought you were a smart person. From the very beginning, I made it clear to you that having sex is fine, but being lovers is not, and this time you crossed the line. Tomorrow I will apply to headquarters for your transfer order, moving you back to Paris. No need for extra words. Since Devon, men have merely been the seasoning of my life. The trending topic didn't stay active on the internet for long. The blogger who leaked the information deleted the post, and the headquarters in France also suppressed it, causing no significant uproar. It was Devon who clarified on Weibo, I am Evelyn's ex-husband, and Evelyn is a very good woman. The way she has become now is all my fault. I was the one who brought this matter to light, and I hope she can turn back and give me another chance, but it seems impossible now. The other protagonist of this matter, Alan, also came forward to argue with me. Everything was my choice. I knew from the beginning that Sister Evelyn had other men, she made it clear to me from the start. Because of this incident, my Weibo followers increased by over 1 million in just a few days. Some fans even sent me private messages asking for advice, saying, Sister, how can I make so many handsome guys fall head over heels in love with me? I didn't reply to them, but instead posted a Weibo, love yourself first, improve yourself, and then enjoy the world. This matter has come to a close. Devon remained silent for a long time after this incident. Until Daisy was captured and sent back to her country. A WeChat transaction record of hers in the United States was intercepted by the police, who conducted a cross-border pursuit based on the address, ultimately capturing her and deporting her back to her country. In the 2.5 years in America, she had squandered nearly 80 million, and the amount that could be recovered was minimal, a drop in the bucket for Devon. I also went to the court for Daisy's verdict. Daisy was sentenced to 10 years in prison, with a 1-year reprieve. After the court closed, Devon rushed in front of her and questioned her excitedly, Why did you treat me this way? What have I done to wrong you? Daisy sneered. Devon, how can you even ask? Evelyn has done so much for you, yet you can curse her in a language she doesn't understand right in front of her. Do you really think I would entrust my future to someone like you? From start to finish, all I wanted was your money, but I found that ever since Evelyn left your company's performance has plummeted. If I wait for your company to go bankrupt before I run, that would truly be a loss of both people and money. Daisy's words tore away the last shred of dignity from Devon, who collapsed on the ground, crying in despair. He looked in my direction and said he was sorry, but I ignored him. As I was about to leave, Daisy looked at me and said, Evelyn, you must be feeling quite pleased with yourself now, right? I turned to her and smiled. What am I so proud of? Isn't your current outcome what you deserve? I walked out of the courtroom with a smile, and I heard news about the two of them again 3 months later. Devon was hit hard and kept drowning his sorrows in alcohol. One night, in a drunken rage, he found Daisy with a knife and stabbed her a dozen times to vent his resentment. Daisy died on the spot, and Devon was also arrested and imprisoned. Someone found a letter at Devon's residence, addressed to me. When the police gave it to me, I didn't open it. Instead, I just tore it to shreds and threw it in the trash can. I have no strong emotions towards them. I can only sigh at the unpredictability of life. Perhaps fate had already arranged the future long before it was known to anyone. Their endings have nothing to do with me. I looked up at the sky, the sun was shining brightly. Today is a good day.